I can see. And that is a gift. And everything else, it will fall into place over time. We can't see the end of our story, but God can.
Welcome back to Conversations. My name is Emma.
And I'm Ginny. Today we interview Angela Stromberg, who moved from England to the United States as a young woman in search of a fairy tale.
Angela talks to us a little bit about her story and how tragedy struck, making us wonder, did she ever get that fairy tale?
Angela, welcome to the podcast.
So good to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So I met you about 15 years ago, maybe 20. And one of the first things I noticed about you was your lovely British accent.
Thank you, Jimmy.
But I want to find out if AI can give me one of those beautiful accents.
Oh,
Do you think it can do that? Yeah.
I mean, probably.
But you came by yours naturally.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yes, I did. I got the proper royal training for 21 years and then came to the States and had to work hard to hold on to it.
Tell us about why you came to the United States or what you did when you first got here.
Oh, I wanted to come to the United States because all we knew about the United States and England was Dallas, the TV show, and Dynasty, and how glamorous everything was in the United States. And it was always sunny. Everybody was wealthy. Everybody had big cars and big houses. And so I wanted to come and be part of all of that glamorous scene that I saw on TV. So I was in my last year of university and I had a cousin who I'd never seen come over here. And so I just called him up. I said, could you get me a job? Could you help me find a connection in America for the summer? And he said, well, how about being a nanny? You know, we've got a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. Can you come and sit on the beach and take care of our kids? And I'm like, sign me up. Yes, that sounds like a deal. So that's how it happened. And came over to New York where they had house number 1. And we drove all the way down to New Smyrna Beach in Florida and stayed there for a couple of months. And I drove the Dodge minivan and had to learn how to drive an automatic. Graduated that lesson, and here we are.
That's a challenge in and of itself.
That's so fun. So you're like a pair. I nannied when I was in college, and such a great experience to, kind of step in.
So, Angela, when you first came to New York, I think you did some modeling. Is that right?
I did. Yes. 6 foot tall has to be useful for something. So I found a great little modeling job. It came to me, actually. A friend of my cousin was a magazine editor and he needed a cover. So I was like, okay, that sounds like fun. We could do that. And so he gave me lots of fun little outfits to wear and got to walk up and down a runway for a while and learn how to do all of that. And yeah, it was really great. I actually got to wear high heels for the first time in my life, which made me about 6'4". And I didn't fall over. So there you go. I graduated that. It was really fun.
Sounds like you did get to live the American dream for a little bit.
Just for weeks.
And then making a model and all that stuff. So that's actually really cool for you.
So tell us then a little bit more about what happened after that.
Oh, well, as one does, I met a very handsome guy on the beach. He was the manager of the condominium complex where we were. And so we started dating. He was fun. He'd grown up outside of America too, in South America, and had some time in Europe, went to the Netherlands for high school. So we had a lot in common, sense of humor, soccer, and he was very fun and funny, and very talented, by the way. And so it was just a lovely time. We just decided to spontaneously get married on the side of the lake. And I went home, finished my degree, took my finals, and he came over to England and we kind of did a pseudo wedding. Of course, we were already married, but we did kind of a blessing wedding and got me a ticket to America where I could come and work and happily ever after. Or so I thought that would happen.
Is there any part of your life that's not a fairy tale?
No. Oh, yes. That's coming right up. Yeah, that unravels fairly quickly. So came to America at 21. And then I knew almost instantly that I had made a mistake, but you make this big marriage decision. And so even though my family weren't particularly, Bible-believing Christians, we were raised well and with, a conscience and, dignity for sticking with the decision she made. So I was going to just make it work. It wasn't terrible. It just wasn't really what I wanted. It was really hot in Florida, and I'm British, and there were giant insects everywhere, these huge roaches I've never seen before in my life. So anyway, it was all a bit overwhelming, but we made the best of it. But 2 years later, unfortunately, I got into a horrific near-death car accident. My husband's name was Michael, and we were having breakfast either at the Waffle House or somewhere equally glamorous. And he went off to work, and I was going home because I wasn't working until noon. And there wasn't a turn lane to go into my street, and it was rather busy. It was a busy road. And somebody came up behind me and meant to go round me, of course, but they didn't. They hit me and pushed me, and my head went forward into the windshield. Didn't go through that windshield, but my arms went through the steering wheel and broke my arms, and my leg got twisted under the pedals, and it pushed me into oncoming traffic. So I was hit head on by a truck, and that blew me out the back windshield. And that's where I lost the rest of my nose and face, and my teeth went into a ditch somewhere, and I lost all my breathing passages. So ironically, I guess providentially, the guy behind the guy that hit me was an off-duty paramedic, and he stuck a hole in my throat and did an on-site kind of tracheostomy. And then they called the helicopter to come pick me up, take me to the trauma center. Police arrived before the helicopter, and he wrote a homicide report. He said she's definitely not going to make it. Oh yeah, I have a homicide report on file somewhere. But they picked up all the pieces and parts, got me onto the helicopter, and then took me into 17 hours of surgery. Didn't find a surgeon right away that was willing to tackle that, but some brilliant young guy, he was just a few years older than me, probably just right out of med school, was willing to take me on and rebuild my whole face, really. They had to kind of do what's called a craniotomy, where they cut you from ear to ear and they kind of take off your bone structure, put it all back together again, lots of titanium in. I lost my left eye. They had to take that out immediately because it was so bad. There was so much glass in it. There was no way it was going to be saved. And the right one was pretty bad. It was cut from top to bottom, but the cut was a bit cleaner. And so they thought that if they took the bad eye out, the good eye could heal. And thank you, Lord, it did. But it took a while. The eye is actually the fastest healing organ in the body. Did you know that? So yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, so I was in a medically induced coma for about a month. And they did another operation too. It just couldn't do it all in 17 hours. So they had to do another one that was about 10 hours after that. Stitched all my teeth in, which was amazing. I still have all my own teeth. Yeah. It's crazy. Wow. So woke up about a month later in the ICU, and my husband was there. He was a good man, really. He took great care of me. But I remember waking up and he was there, and he was trying to explain that I'd had this horrific accident. And I just felt so strange. I was in this bed, but I couldn't move. And I wanted to look at my face because he was explaining that my face had had a lot of trauma to it. I want to see it. And then I couldn't move my arms. They were both in plaster casts, and they were both tied to the bed. And my legs felt heavy too because they were in plaster casts. And there was this weird steel cage thing around my spine. So after much persuasion, he gave me a mirror. Or he held it up for me. He was trying to very delicately tell me that they had removed my left eye. And I didn't really care about that. I couldn't see it. It was all bandaged up, so it looked just fine to me. But they'd shaved my head. And that made me so angry. So angry. I had really nice, long, brown hair. And they shaved it. I wanted to talk to whoever did that. I was more concerned about my hair than anything else. Yeah.
We girls and our hair.
Yeah. And I told him to get this stupid pencil out of my throat. He's like, it's not a pencil. It's a breathing tube. I couldn't open my mouth, so I had to kind of talk like through my teeth. And I kept telling him that I wanted a tissue. And he kept thinking I wanted to kiss you. I wanted tissue. But Anyway, he eventually got it. But he kissed me anyway. And that was okay.
That's cute. That's
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, how do you even wrap your mind around that, right? When you
Yeah.
go back to your
Yeah.
so-called normal life, it's not normal anymore.
No. You learn a lot. You learn a lot in those situations. You reframe your perspective pretty quickly. Because of course, when you're in hospital for that long, you lose all your dignity. There's no such thing as privacy. I mean, they come in and they hose you off like you're in a car wash or something. You kind of feel like a slab of meat is how I felt like. I felt like a big piece of steak that was being moved around from operating room to operating room. One time they even forgot the IV tube and it ripped right out of my chest. So they had to put that back in. At least I had a husband who was trying to work full time and then spending the evenings at the hospital trying to take care of me. So, man, you just need an advocate in the hospital these days. You can't be there by yourself. That's lesson number one.
Did you have any hope at that time, or where was your mind and heart at that time? Were you just like, is this worth it? I don't want to live this way. Could you kind of imagine getting through it? Where were you at?
Yeah. It's so interesting because I didn't really have any real faith life at that point. I just was a believer in the power of the positive spirit. And I've always been very positive and determined. And so I just think I felt I will recover. I am going to master this. I'm going to conquer this. This is nothing. I'm going to get back up on my feet. I didn't realize how hard the journey ahead was at that point. But yeah, I always felt fairly confident that I would push through it physically. I didn't really understand what was ahead spiritually. And I definitely didn't understand what was ahead emotionally. But I am British, right? The British culture tends to be a bit more stiff upper lip and suck it up, pull up your bootstraps, get on with it. At least that was the way that I was raised. That's kind of how my mother is. So that's what I knew. My husband's humor helped a lot. He was very funny. He would call me Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. And I'm very tall, and I was taller than him. You put casts on my feet, and I'm even taller. His humor helped. It helped a lot. I was really grateful for that. But it was the start of 20 operations. So I had 5 of those craniotomies because when they transplant bone behind your eye, you only retain about 20% of it. So you have to do it over and over and over again for it to actually look decent and have a lasting effect.
Well, first, you look absolutely stunning and amazing. Not that the way we look has anything to do with who we are as people, but I did definitely want to emphasize that again. And 2, not really an important question, but it was important to you, your hair. So I'm assuming that's your real hair now. Did you ever wear wigs or anything to kind of get you through the hair was gone or
no? No, I just kind of did this, I don't know if you guys remember Sinead O'Connor. It's kind of like the bald Irish singer that was around in the 80s and 90s. Yeah,
I do. Emma's too young.
Emma's too young. It grew back. Then, of course, they shaved it again another, a year later when I had to go back. But yes, we got through that. So we decided at the age of 29 and 39 that we would have a child. I was just surrounded by people. My friends were all having children and babies, and we'd been married 8 years and we've been through so much. I thought a child would really help us. But of course, that's never a good idea. And it didn't help us. What I didn't understand is the toll of a caregiver is immense. And I understand that now because I've been through it as a caregiver, but I didn't understand it then. And so it took a long time and it took a lot out of my husband. And nurses would tell me most husbands leave when it's this bad. Most husbands just get up and they leave, not because they love the person, but just because they can't cope. And so that eventually happened. Also, I had a brain injury. When you hit your head and you hit your frontal lobe on something that hard at 60 miles an hour, that is your control center. And it's your control center for emotions, decision-making, problem solving, impulse control, speech. It messes with a lot of things. And he would say that my personality completely changed and that I wasn't the person that he married, which I don't have any perspective for that because I'm the patient. But I'll give him grace on that and say there's probably some truth to that. And so we got divorced at 31, 32 years old. I went back to the big wide world. I had gone back to work about 9 months after my accident on a limited basis. I worked at Joan Fabrics and I loved it. It was a great job. And we worked together to take care of Michael. And so he had 2 homes, 2 parents that were very involved in his life. We did the best we could. I know it wasn't perfect for him, but we did the best we could.
And that's all you can do, is the best that you can do in your situation.
I got back into dating fairly quickly, made a lot of mistakes there, met some rather odd people, but did meet some nice people too. And one of those nice people took me to church. He was a great guy named Tim. And he decided one day we should go to church. I didn't really see the need to do that, but I saw what happened. He loved it. And so I stood by a table. It was a ski trip sign-up table. And some girl asked me if I was going. I'm like, going where? And she's like, skiing. You're standing next to the sign-up table. I'm like, oh, I don't ski. And she's like, well, I don't ski either. And I'm like, well, let's learn together. So I wrote a check and went skiing. Who knew that there was a ski trip with a church? They were all 30 to 50, great people having a great time of life, all single, amazing. And I was starting to learn about Jesus, starting to learn about the Bible. I took this servanthood class, sat next to this amazing girl that is still one of my best friends today. We were both recovering from divorce. So that was kind of the beginning of the Christian journey. And then the best part, kind of through an indirect relationship at church, I met truly the man of my dreams, the best husband you could ever ask for. And his name was Matt. And I met him on the beach in New Simona, an invitation to the beach to a party. I didn't know that all these people from church were going to be there. Didn't really dress the best. I had the wrong swimsuit on, baseball hat, the 8-year-old kid, boogie board toys. Yeah. So anyway, met this guy. He took all my toys and my stuff to the beach and my son and played with him. I stood on the edge of the ocean and just looked at him. And I, for the first time, heard God audibly say to me, this is the man for you. This is your husband. And I looked at his big glassy green eyes. They were just gorgeous. And he had the most amazing cheeky grin. I loved it. And he was bald. And he had this giant scar down the back of his head, which I thought was beautiful. I just didn't, it was his story. And he was so attractive, but in a different kind of way. First of all, he was barely taller than me, probably the same height, and very white. But he was just cute. And his personality was just so unexpected and fun. And his sense of humor was very British because he was in the Marine Corps and he had friends who were Royal Marines. So he totally got the British sense of humor. It took him a week to get my number and call me. But we did. We went out for coffee at 7:00 on Saturday night. Who does that? I don't know. Why would you go to Starbucks at 7:00 on Saturday night? But Matt did. And so this barista comes over with this giant basket and said, oh, everything's free for Angela Day. They had cups and coffee and chocolates and presents and gift cards and all kinds of things in there. And I thought, this guy is amazing. He asked me the most amazing questions, like not run-of-the-mill questions, like you would expect, small talk, surfacey questions, like interesting, deep questions. And I wish I could tell you what they were, but they were so interesting that he just captivated my attention. But eventually at around 8:30, I'm like, I'm starving and I have got to eat. And so he's like, I love sushi. Let's go have sushi. And he said, that's this place right opposite here. We did. We had another 2 hours of amazing conversation and then came out and sat on the bench on Park Avenue in Winter Park. And he said, I don't even know you, but I could marry you.
Oh,
I think you're going to. I would say that to a lot of single women these days, that the man that you meet may be in the package that you think he might be, but don't be short-sighted because you might miss out on the greatest thing that could ever happen to you. So we married. It was beautiful. And I kind of got to live the fairy tale life for about 5 years. He was very, very creative. And he would print off weather reports and take off the destination and say, pack for 3 days for this. Plane leaves on Friday at 5. Wow. We had a big New Year's Eve party. He took some lightweight plastic chairs back to a neighbor that lived opposite the next morning. And I could see him like staggering around like he was drunk, but Matt didn't drink. So he came back. I'm like, do you have an ear infection or your balance is off? And he said, no, my brain is swollen. What do you mean your brain is swollen? He's like, no, I've had this before. It's swollen because Matt was a brain cancer survivor when I met him. He had brain cancer when he was 28 and he was in the military and jumping out of helicopters. And he had surgery to remove the tumor back then and told that he had 6 months to a year to live. But he lived 10 when he met me. I never saw it coming back. I thought, wow, this guy's stronger than steel. But we got the MRI, and sure enough, the call came from the neurologist. We need you to come in to MD Anderson today, like this afternoon, like right now. So we did. And they told us how severe the situation was, that they needed to operate the next morning. His poor parents were in Seattle, had to get the red eye over. They got to the hospital literally minutes before he was rolled into the OR. So we prayed a lot that previous night, not knowing how he was going to wake up the next day, or if he was going to wake up, what kind of functionality he would have. So it was quite heavy, as you can imagine. But yeah, in true Matt style, in true Marine Corps Matt, walked out of that hospital 48 hours later. But we really didn't want to use the wheelchair. I mean, he had to, but as soon as he got outside the hospital, he got out of the wheelchair and walked into his car. And he was good.
Yeah.
He was good for a year. We had this amazing year. We had people praying for us all over the country. I would post a blog every night on Caring Bridge. And people would dial in and like, this is amazing. It's going to happen. He's going to be healed. It's going to be fantastic. And then a year later, we went to his parents for Christmas. And they have a big, steep staircase in the house. And Matt was losing his balance. It was going wrong. I could see it happening and it was changing quite a bit every day. So we went home, but things were going from bad to worse. His father had bought Super Bowl tickets for the Seattle Seahawks playing and was excited, but Matt's ability to walk was getting less and less day by day. And so I had to put him on a plane in a wheelchair for his father to meet him the other end. But his plane was late. And so Matt started wandering around the airport using his wheelchair as a walker. And it was probably one of the most stressful days of my life, other than watching him pass away. His father flew back with him. His mom flew down. And within a couple of days of that, he woke up and was paralyzed and couldn't move. They took him into the hospital. And I knew before we even got there what had happened. The cancer had gone down his spine and taken out his whole nervous system. It was the beginning of the end. And they told us pretty quickly it was terminal. And they said, you got 2 weeks. If you do nothing, you've got 4 months if you do palliative. So we did palliative care. We just chemo and radiation. And it was probably a very bad decision because Matt loved to eat. He loved to talk. Couldn't do either because it had fried into his esophagus and his stomach. It was just really terrible quality of life for him. But it gave us a chance to say goodbye. It gave us a chance to just talk about what's ahead for me. And he made me promise to take Bible study fellowships class on Revelation. It was starting in September. He was going to be a leader, table leader. Of course, he didn't make it. He died 4 months later. And he made me promise to take this class on Revelation that taught me so much about heaven. But I got to do it with my dear friend Dina. We lived 2 doors down. Her husband, Dan, had become Matt's closest friend. So we'd go to class, and on the way home, we'd stop for a beer at the bar, just digest life, what was happening. It was the best beer of the week. It was the only beer of the week, but it was, I looked forward to that time so much. It was lovely. And after several months of not being able to breathe, my son went to college, left for college 500 miles away, 30 days after Matt passed away. So it was truly an empty nest. But I had been volunteering at a Christian mission organization called Jobs Partnership. And they graciously asked for more of my time. And it gave me a home. It gave me a place to belong. It gave me something to get out of bed for in the morning. And it was a perfect fit for who I was, my skills, what I had done for a career. But now I got to do it for Jesus. These years, it will be 10 years this July since Matt has been gone. And I would say these last 10 years, my faith has been more deep, more real, more boots on the ground. I can't even describe it, but it's real faith. What I had before Matt died was biblical, theological understanding of what the Bible said, and an agreement to, this makes sense, I'm going to follow this. After Matt died was life-giving. It was my oxygen. It is my oxygen. And it's just hard to explain all the pieces that contribute to that, but losing someone that you love so much, that loves God so much, is a powerful privilege that I don't think many people get. And I did. God gave me a front row seat to this man who changed my life forever. And so, yeah, it gives you a perspective on the day-to-day, what might seem like drudgery, but it's not. It's beautiful. You only have to walk outside and see God's creation and the trees that we get to witness in the spring here in Charlotte and all the seasons. God is the almighty creator and orchestrator of all of that. And he took Matt home in his perfect timing. And he will take me home in his perfect timing.
I know we have to wrap it up in a time, but I just wanted to briefly say, kind of picking off of what you just ended with there, that although you've probably been through more awful things in life than the most, you've also experienced probably more beautiful things in this life.
For sure.
As well.
Yeah. I truly believe the lower you go, the higher you can go. They work together.
I'll take that because I've been through some really low, and I am experiencing that. Yeah. I'm also experiencing great things in life.
Yeah. They are inseparable. You can only look up. When you're in the valley, the only place you can go is to look up, right?
For any of our listeners who are in the middle of a crisis, do you have any thoughts or encouragement for someone that's in that situation?
Yeah. Find something beautiful. There's something beautiful anywhere. Read something beautiful. The Bible has so many beautiful verses. I love reading the Psalms. For me, just going outside for a walk and literally putting one foot in front of the other and looking around, having broken both my legs and my arms and my back. If I can walk, if I can put one foot in front of the other, I'm grateful. A gift. We think it's not, but it is. It's a gift to be able to see. I've got one eye that was cut in half, that was saved. I can see. And that is a gift. And everything else, it will fall into place over time. We can't see the end of our story, but God can. So having trust for the story is not over.
I've heard a little bit about you, but I love to actually, communicate with you one-on-one like this. That was great.
Yeah.
So inspiring.
Thank you. Well, the story's not over, right? There's another chapter somewhere.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.
Tell others about the podcast.
And for more information on today's guest, check out our show notes.
Until next time.